It's hotter than hell outside, and this is your Daily Detroit for Tuesday, July 7th, 2020. I'm Sven Gustafson, saying hello to you from my secret pod cellar in fabulous Ferndale, where it's so cold I had to put socks on.
And I'm Jarrett Stays, coming at you from the Motor City's tree-lined North End neighborhood. My studio is on the second floor of an old house without air conditioning. It is so hot in the D. Before we get started, Sven, the team, and I would like 4 sentences of your time if you'd be so kind. If you value these shows, which automatically appear each day in your favorite podcatcher, then you can help support us by becoming a member at patreon.com/dailydetroit.
You choose the amount you're most comfortable giving, and in response, we send you cool swag like our nifty new black and white stickers, which are just perfect for your laptop, or our forthcoming engraved glass tumblers. We give you a service by keeping you up to date on what's happening in the wild world of Detroit. You can help us keep pushing Detroit's conversation forward. Go to patreon.com/dailydetroit, and thank you.
Now for the top-line coronavirus numbers. State of Michigan officials are reporting 295 new cases and 3 deaths for Monday. That takes the state totals to more than 66,000 cases and 5,975 deaths. The city of Detroit's Coleman A. Young Municipal Center, or you might know it as City Hall, is reopening for some in-person services. The city says residents are able to schedule appointments starting yesterday for services within the Building, Safety, Engineering, and Environmental Department, so think permits and such, Public Works, Tax and Assessor's Office, and Appeals and Hearings. To protect employees and residents, cash payment will not be accepted via hand-to-hand transactions with city employees, and cash will only be accepted at the DivDat kiosk, which I see those all around town. I've actually used them, but that name just makes me giggle, the DivDat. Anyway, whenever possible, curbside assistance is an option to further reduce the number of people in the building. And in the ongoing list of developments, a Spanish study released last month and published in the medical journal Lancet shows that herd immunity for coronavirus without a vaccine is, quote, unachievable, unquote, throwing more water on the let it burn theory of dealing with the crisis. Only 5% of the population is carrying antibodies there, which is similar to data found in Switzerland, the United States, and China.
Jer, this is coming as a whole bunch of studies are suggesting, these are preliminary studies, suggest that people who were infected with COVID-19 are losing their antibodies, the things that confer immunity to getting infected again after just a few weeks or months of recovery from the coronavirus. And also Dr. Fauci, Anthony Fauci today said that any vaccine that was developed against the coronavirus would likely only offer finite protections, in his words. So in other words, people would have to get repeat vaccinations, unlike, most of the other vaccines we get, which offer lifetime immunity.
Yeah, this whole thing seems to be continuing to shift as we learn more. I don't know if people haven't checked it out. The episode of The Daily on Monday talks about 4 things that we have learned about it. And one of the most interesting things to me is that this is more of a vascular disease than a respiratory disease.
Ford is gearing up to reveal its all-new Bronco off-road SUV, reviving a nameplate that's been out of production since the mid-90s. Now, the automaker is confirming rumors that Bronco will be its own sub-brand for a family of Ford off-road vehicles. Ford will unveil the 2-door and 4-door Bronco and the smaller Bronco Sport models next week. They'll be badged with a Bronco emblem on the front grille rather than the blue oval. What's more, Ford says it will introduce 4 driving schools called Bronco Off-Rodeos, plus an independent Bronco Nation online community devoted to the brand and new models. And, of course, there will be Bronco merch. The new Bronco family will carry Built Wild branding that encompasses extensive durability testing, the ability to handle any terrain, and design innovation. Ford is teaming with Disney to broadcast the reveal Monday on ABC, ESPN, National Geographic, and Hulu, through 3-minute films during each network's commercial break. It will also air on Ford's various social media channels.
You know, I'm glad you're talking about this one, Sven, because people are pumped. I saw a pic of what the stickers they sent looked like. They're nice. They're really doing a lot of brand communication around this. And it seems like this is going to set off a real war between Jeep and Ford, Sven.
Yeah, there's no question that Ford is, I think, aiming squarely at Jeep, with the reveal of the Bronco and kind of resuscitating that nameplate, which, having done some traveling here in the past couple weeks now, after months without any travel, I'm kind of reminded of how much people, at least here in Michigan, love Jeep. I mean, it's been a phenomenally successful brand for years anyway, so it's not just limited to Michigan, but you sure do see a lot of Jeeps out on the road. And Ford, in announcing that they're going to do a sub-brand of Bronco families, they're kind of following the lead of Ram, which several years ago spun out as its own brand of trucks, and also kind of the Mustang itself. I mean, I don't think Ford has come out and committed or confirmed that they're spinning Mustang out as its own sub-brand, but they pretty much are. I mean, they've got the Mustang, the traditional Mustang, sports coupe, sports car that's been around since the 1960s, and then, they're coming out with the Mustang Mach-E, the battery electric crossover, which is going to be a big vehicle for them. So this will be interesting to watch.
For sure. But we are saying goodbye to someone.
That's right. From triumphant returns to disappointing endings, Ford has confirmed that it is pulling the plug on the venerable Lincoln Continental. It will not live on past the 2020 model year, with production ending at the Flat Rock assembly plant later this year. Ford says the decision was down to the continued decline of full-size premium sedans here in the U.S. This comes as, everything is all about crossovers, SUV, and trucks now. The Continental is one of Ford's most legendary and historic nameplates. It was reintroduced in 2017 after 15 years of dormancy and based on a well-received concept vehicle. But Jared, the brand sold fewer than 7,000 Lincoln Continental models last year. The nameplate will live on in China, which is a big market for Lincoln. But sad to see it go. I actually like the new Lincoln Continental model, but again, it's Americans just no longer seem to care about small cars anymore.
No, I mean that is a major flop. 7,000 vehicles. That's just not a good showing, man.
No, and I mean, they're for their part, Ford is happy to keep making Lincoln Navigators, which is a much bigger car, but it generates much bigger profits for them.
A Detroit City Council staffer has been found dead in his vehicle in Westland on Sunday morning. Policy analyst DeAndre Watson was an apparent victim of a homicide, according to Fox 2 News. Watson was considered a rising star in city circles and city politics. The TV station reports officers were led by the investigation to a nearby apartment where they found Deontez Jones of Westland, also dead, of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Police think the incidents are connected as both knew each other. Watson worked for Councilman James Tate, an occasional guest of the show, for a number of years. The 30-year-old University of Michigan grad was also involved in the Black Student Union, Central Student Government, and the NAACP. It's sad to see this one. The city has lost a number of young leaders over the last few months for a variety of reasons, and it sucks to see this one go too.
A group called Livonia Citizens Caring About Black Lives has sponsored a billboard on Telegraph Road in Redford Township that reads, "Driving while black, racial profiling just ahead. Welcome to Livonia." The group raised $1,800 in 3 days to pay for the digital signage, which is visible right on the border of Livonia and Redford Township. Livonia does not allow billboards in their city. Livonia is one of Michigan's largest cities, and it's also one of the whitest, at more than 90% Caucasian. It's long faced allegations of being lily white and officers profiling drivers of color within the city, and it has long opted out of regional transit services, which is considered by some a move to keep poor and people of color out of the city.
It's one of many suburbs in Metro Detroit that actively discouraged black people from moving there in the past, and there have been reports of it today. Multiple historical sources indicate that it was for many decades what was called a sundown town, where black people were moved along and harassed if they were within the city limits after dark. This was a common practice in Metro Detroit, a region that carried on many of the segregationist traits of the Deep South due to all the plant workers who moved up here as the auto industry grew in the last century. For their part, Livonia police posted on social media that they do not racially profile. The group paying for the billboard is demanding transparency in police records to find out if this is indeed the case.
A federal judge has dismissed 2 Republican lawsuits taking aim at the voter-approved constitutional amendment establishing an independent commission to take over the drawing of legislative districts in Michigan. Voters in 2018 approved Proposal 2, which took aim at the practice of gerrymandering political districts to favor one political party over another. The measure established the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission, which is made up of 13 non-elected officeholder commissioners, 4 each who identify as Republican and Democrat, and 5 who are unaffiliated. They'll redraw Michigan's congressional and state legislative districts in time for the 2022 election. An appeals court had previously ruled against the Michigan Republican Party and a conservative activist whose lawsuits were consolidated. The Sixth Circuit Court had also ruled against the challenge. The plaintiffs had alleged violations of their First Amendment and equal protection rights. The 13 redistricting commissioners will be selected by September 1st.
A petition sponsored by conservative group Unlock Michigan will start circulating in the next few days, as it's been approved by the state's Board of Canvassers, the Detroit Free Press reports. The petition aims to strip Governor Gretchen Whitmer of her emergency powers without legislative approval granted under a 1945 law. She's used those powers to issue stay-at-home orders, close down bars, and other actions we've seen during the pandemic. The petition must be signed in person, and if it gets enough signatures, the legislature, which is majority Republican, could just pass it with a simple vote, and Whitmer could not veto it. Although the Michigan Republican Party doesn't have an official stance, Senate Leader Mike Shirkey supports the drive. Advocates say the emergency law allows one leader to make stuff up without legislative input. So I'd mention here, Sven, that there was a tweet over the weekend that I shared on the Daily Detroit account, which showed the difference between Michigan responding, Michigan and Governor Whitmer not doing what the president wanted and keeping things closed and having masks versus Texas and Florida, and how they reopened the economy, which is what, to be clear, Michigan Republicans want. And now we have the benefit of hindsight, and we know that that would have been disastrous in Michigan. And almost all, DeSantis is its own thing, but basically all that buff and all of that chest puffing is all getting rolled back.
No, absolutely. The governor's stay-at-home order worked, pure and simple. You can't deny that. And I think polling has even shown that a lot of Republican-leaning voters have supported, the calls, what she did, essentially. And look, I think this is pretty intellectually dishonest here, too. Let's be honest. If there were a Republican in office, using these emergency powers for whatever means, whether it was for, coronavirus stay-at-home orders or something else, do you think Republicans would be arguing that governor was going too far? Of course not.
Sven, you took a little bit of a trip up north, or kind of up north, I guess, this weekend, and saw a little bit of the thumb. I know there is an ongoing debate of exactly where up north starts and ends, but you went up to the thumb, I understand.
Yeah, we the family and I went up. We met some friends up. There's actually 2 state parks at the very tippy top of the thumb, with some really spectacular beaches up there. So it's kind of like our closest and probably prettiest beaches. There's some nice beaches in Port Huron too, to be fair. But I figured this one might be a little less crowded on a holiday weekend, so we went up there. It was a really interesting experience. I've been up there a few times now, just in recent years. I had basically spent most of my life never, ever having visited the thumb, just kind of looking at it on a map, just wondering about, these towns like Big Axe and stuff, like what a strange name. And And, it is an interesting place. I will say that. It reminds me in some ways of the UP, although, where the UP is mostly wilderness, the farm or the thumb is almost entirely agriculture, farmlands and everything. It was interesting. We left the beach and went looking for a place to eat, and that was a tough task, I got to tell you. There are slim pickings to start with. There are just, frankly, not a lot of restaurants up there outside of an occasional McDonald's in some of the towns there and everything. And we went into a place where they told us that there was outdoor dining, but the entire inside was filled with, people sitting at tables without masks. They were looking at us strangely because we walked in the front door wearing masks. And we didn't end up staying there. And I will say also, Jer, that it was a little bit of a depressing drive because we went through a lot of towns, especially on the way back. We took a different route on the way back, and we went through a lot of severely economically depressed towns. There is, it is kind of severe depression level, I would say, in the thumb. And that is something that I think you see across rural Michigan at this point, and frankly across rural America. I don't think it's a phenomenon isolated to Michigan or any other state in particular. But it's it is a reminder that, like, I think that is a real growing problem in this country, is that our rural hinterlands are in serious need of economic revitalization. And it got me thinking, frankly, about how we could do that to the thumb. Which is, for all of its problems, it is beautiful up there. There's, with the farm fields, and, there's a whole bunch of wind turbines up there now and everything. And some of the coastline up there is absolutely gorgeous, beautiful beaches and everything. The thumb, unlike northern Michigan, really only benefits from a couple of months of summer tourism when people come up to, visit the beaches and everything, and that's really it. There really is no like fall, leaf peeping season or winter tourism up there to speak of. There are no like ski resorts or anything like that, unlike northern Michigan. So they're working with kind of a limited palette of options, I guess. But it got me thinking about what they could do to try to encourage more economic activity up there. And I mentioned that it's mostly agricultural. I wonder if, establishing some kind of a food tourism thing is an option. There are some small farms up there. I definitely saw some signs advertising, you pick farms and places with, organic grass-fed beef and things like that. It would be neat to try to get some kind of farm-to-table, tourism movement or something like that up there. I think that could potentially bring people up. It'd be nice to see more recreation lands sort of marketed. They do have some up there. In addition to the state parks, there are some, open kind of nature preserve areas that would be nice to see marketed better, to try to get people up more, more times through the year. Because look, it's close by option for, Detroiters who maybe don't want to make the long drive up north. It's really, you can get up there within 2.5 hours as opposed to like a 4-hour drive to get up north. And like I said, it's really nice. So it'd be nice to see some kind of concerted effort made at the state level to try to, revitalize this region.
All right, that's it for today. We're all out of pod, Sven. We're done with the pod.
No more pod.
No more pod. By the way, quick thank you to whoever friend of the pod dropped off a box of Eastern Market vegetables, which is absolutely amazing. There is squash, potatoes, mushrooms, cherries, lettuce at the door of the North End headquarters when I went out to check it this afternoon. Complete surprise. So thank you, whoever you are.
Listener, you have ensured that Jer is eating good in the neighborhood.
Reminder to listen to Your Daily Detroit wherever fine podcasts are found. There are more than 500 of these episodes to choose from. It's like a Detroit time machine, Sven. We can go back to the time when we actually went out to places.
That's so trippy.
I know. Well, with that, I'm Jer Staves.
And I'm Sven Gustafson. Take care of each other, and we will get through this together.
Before we get started, me, Sven, and the team would like 4 sentences of your time.
Sorry, Sven, the team and I.